My neighbor from hell got salty that I called the police on him and started dumping his garbage on my property in retaliation. Posted by you/no pants are safe. I've been dealing with some bad neighbors for 3 years now. I thought I'd share my story both for entertainment value and to ask, what would you do differently in my situation? The context behind the neighbors: an old man lives there whose wife passed away before I moved in. Now, some younger people from the projects, who aren't related to him, take advantage of him and live with him rent-free. How they met, I don't know. Despite the less than reputable characters that live with him, the old man is the biggest thorn in my side. I wish I could post pictures in this subreddit, but I'll just have to describe it. My house is situated farther back from the road than theirs. I can see into their backyard from my front door. The old man likes to drive into his yard and pull up to his front door to unload groceries so he doesn't have to walk as far to take them into the house. I understand that part. The problem is, he pulls down my driveway, then across my yard to get to his front door. It kills my grass and leaves ruts in the yard. The next time I saw him outside, I asked him to stop driving in my yard, and he said he would, but he kept doing it. A second time I asked him to stop, and again it didn't stop. After the third time, I was angry, so I went to his house and pounded on the door, but nobody answered. I went home, wrote an angry note, and package taped it to his door, threatening to call the police if it happened again. Surprise, it happened again. So after the fourth time, I went to the police, and the police told him to stop, and he did. To this day, he hasn't driven in my yard, thank goodness. But the story doesn't end here. After my trouble with them, I put Ring cameras up on my property, and last month my cameras caught something baffling. He dumped a big box TV on my property. I have a huge yard and a lot of land. I even own some woods. He has a fenced-in yard and also owns some woods. He rode his lawn mower into my front yard, down my side yard, and into my backyard all the way to my woods, and dumped a box TV back there. It wasn't even 3 feet into the woods. You know, rather than leave it by the curb for the garbage company to recycle for free, he had to get rid of it on my property. The audacity. So naturally, I took a picture of the TV, pulled the recordings from my cameras, and took it to the police. The police are charging him with littering and forcing him to remove the TV and dispose of it properly, as well as trespassing him from my property. He'll be hit with criminal mischief if he sets even a foot on my property again. There was one morning last year when I woke up to go to work, and there were like 10 local police cars and state cops all outside his house. Turns out the people from the projects who were living with him were dealing drugs out of his house, and they were doing a bust on them. Everyone but the old man was arrested, and they just got out of jail this month, and are back in the house. I really just need to move. It's a shame because I live in such a nice neighborhood. It's the reason I even picked the house, the location. I've talked to my other neighbors about the bad neighbors, and they said everything was fine before the old man's wife died. But now, he almost seems like he has dementia and is being taken advantage of by some bad people. And now I have drug dealers and trespassers right next door. FML. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Call the police for suspicious activity at every opportunity. If the cops know they deal drugs, they will keep coming out, and it will make their business suffer. I would also call Adult Protective Services to do a wellness check on the old man. The problems may go away sooner than you think. Ops response. Yeah, I know 4 of our local cops really well now, even graduated with one of them. They know my neighbors really well, by name and everything. One of them called them a cancer to the county. They're very familiar with them and always happy to go cause trouble on my behalf, thank goodness. I never knew about Adult Protective Services, I'll have to look into that. Update 9 days later. About a week ago, I posted about my issues with my neighbor driving through my yard in the past and how I had the police tell him to stop. I also shared how, more recently, my neighbor dumped a large box TV on my property, which was caught on my cameras and reported to the police. Yesterday, my camera caught my neighbor leaving a handwritten note on my door that I read when I got home from work, and I also heard from the police regarding the TV. I'll start with the conversation I had with the police and segue into the note he left on my door. The police had been trying to reach my neighbor by phone for the past week and had made multiple visits to his house to tell him to remove the TV, but he wasn't answering his phone or the door. So, the officers on duty have been making routine visits to our street to see if they could catch him outside, and they finally did. They told him he had to remove the TV, and he was livid, naturally. He tried to claim that the property wasn't mine but his. It's mine, not sure why he thinks otherwise considering a fence separates our properties, and that he could do what he wants. The officers said whether it was mine or his was irrelevant, as littering is littering and you can't dispose of electronic waste by dropping it in the woods and pretending it isn't there. So they told him he had to dispose of it properly and told me that if the TV isn't gone in 3 to 4 days, I should call them again, and they'll give him a citation for it. So that was yesterday, when the conversation happened between them. Around lunchtime, my Ring camera caught him leaving the note. The note said something along the lines of, I am giving you until June 1st to trim branches of a tree on your property that are dropping leaves and twigs into my property, or I'm filing a civil suit against you. I am tired of picking up the sticks and leaves dropped on my yard by your tree. Naturally, the first thing I did was look up my state and local laws, and I also went to the police station to notify the officers that this happened so they were aware and could make a report. The officers at the station told me not to worry about it. They know what he's like and said he wouldn't actually go through with it. He's just mad that I got him in trouble and is taking it out on me with any excuse he can come up with. The officers told me it's not my responsibility to take care of it. Our state and local laws state that it's not the responsibility of the owner to trim branches that protrude over the property line, but that the property owner on whose land the branches protrude is allowed to cut them back to the property line. Whether you agree with that or not is up to you, but that's the law I both read and that the police department informed me of. But here's the thing, the tree is healthy and it's not dropping large branches or anything of the sort, nor does it go over anything that would cause damage to his property. Even if it did, insurance would take care of that, it's not my responsibility. He's obviously butthurt about me getting him in trouble these last few months and is reaching for anything he possibly can to cause trouble for me, like I have for him. Unfortunately, I'm an upstanding citizen, and he has no grounds to get me in trouble with anything. Also, our police department and local government despise him and his residents so much that even if this somehow does go to court, his word means nothing compared to mine. So, I'm calling his bluff and ignoring him. I know him well enough at this point. I'm not giving him the attention he wants. If he would have been kind about the situation and had a respectful conversation with me about the tree, I would have been a lot more considerate. But he didn't even talk to me about it. Now that he thinks he can threaten me, he can forget it. The amount he's inconvenienced me severely outweighs leaves falling from my tree into his yard. Maybe when he stops driving across my yard, dumping garbage on my property, and trespassing, I'll think about whether or not to help him. I can't believe there are people on this planet so selfish. See my last post for the details on how these people are the scum of our community, crack-dealing sociopaths and the one garbage house of our nice neighborhood. I'm really disappointed things have ended up this way because the whole reason I even got the house was because of the neighborhood, but I had to pick the one place next door to the crack dealers and trespassers. Again, FML. I'm going to start looking for a new place to live. I'm so thankful the police have been so helpful and understanding of the situation, but it seems no matter how many times I send them or how willing they are to help, this needless drama won't end until they're out of that house or I just leave. I keep to myself. I'm a single, quiet guy who minds his own business in his own house. I just want to be left alone. It's time to start looking elsewhere, I think. Anyways, I hope my strife has been entertaining. I'll probably have another update after the first week of June regarding all of this. Would you have done anything differently? Let me know if you have any advice. Thanks. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Could you contact his family or kids to let them know you're concerned that he is unwell, maybe suffering from dementia, and is at least being financially abused by his drug-dealing roommates? Is there a senior protective services agency you can contact to have them come assess his mental well-being? Otherwise, I'd band together with all the surrounding neighbors so everyone calls the cops the second there are suspicious visits, aka sales, happening at the house. If there are any weird smells or signs of hoarding, call the health department. You don't necessarily have to move. Another option is to commit to outlasting him. This sucks, though. Sorry to have to deal with it. Ops response. I personally don't know any of his family, I don't even know the guy's last name. Lots of people have suggested calling Adult Protective Services, but I think he's too far gone in the sense that he's emotionally dependent on these people and just mentally self-aware enough to justify their presence in his house if anyone did show up. And because I'm the only person causing trouble for him, if I sent anybody, he'd know it came from me. One of the officers mentioned that he's sick, but didn't say with what. He said, to be morbid, I could just try to outlast him and hope he doesn't leave his house to the riffraff. Who knows how that would end up? Commenter 2. Shouldn't he have been arrested for trespassing when he went on your property to leave the note? Ops response. Whenever I went to the police about the TV, I did mention to them that I want them all trespassed. In the heat of the moment, talking to them about this note, it didn't cross my mind to ask about the trespassing. I should have asked. Second update 6 weeks later. This will be my final update regarding what's been going on, unless anything substantial happens in the future. I don't think anything else is going to come of this particular situation, but some things have happened between now and my last post. Here's what's happened. It's now June 3rd and, naturally, I've done nothing about the tree. Countless conversations with other people, including the police, as well as my own research, confirm I'm not responsible. I haven't heard from the neighbor, haven't heard from anybody on his behalf, and haven't gotten any more notes on my door or in my mailbox or anything of the sort. It was just as we suspected, all bark, no bite. He was mad about me getting him in trouble and tried to intimidate me, and it didn't work. He's since removed the TV. Where he put it, I'm not sure, I never saw it on the curb for the garbage or anything. For all I know, he could have just thrown it in his own woods, but I don't care enough to attempt to find out. It's off my property and, as a result, none of my business anymore. I also double-checked with the police to be sure that he was trespassed for good, and they assured me he was. Him removing the TV from my property was the last time he, or anybody in that house, is permitted to set foot on it, and he understood this. As many commenters suggested, I went down to our local human services building in our township and spoke to someone in the Office of Aging, our version of Adult Protective Services. I spent an hour at their office and made a full report on the whole situation, the old man and his seemingly declining mental and physical state, and the types of people living with him. I gave them all the juicy details, from the footage of him struggling to climb 2 stairs onto my porch to leave the note, showcasing his physical state, to another time when he chased a squirrel on his lawn mower into my yard, showcasing his mental state. I even showed them the footage I had from the raid on his house, where the people living with him were, temporarily, arrested for dealing crack out of his house. I gave them the names of the people living with him, provided to me by my buddy in the police department who's been handling the situation. I left no detail out, no stone unturned. The woman I spoke with submitted the report to their investigation unit, but she said I wouldn't get an update regarding the situation. I'll only hear from them if they need more information from me. Only time will tell if this will do any good, not just for me, but for the old man too. To summarize, the TV is off my property, they're officially trespassed, their legal threats were bluffs, and they haven't driven on my yard since. I feel better about everything and I'm hoping this is the last I have to deal with, at least for the foreseeable future. Only time will tell. Of course, should anything else happen, I'll be quick to share it here, but for now, this will be the last time I post regarding this situation. I also wanted to thank everybody for the suggestions on my previous posts. I wouldn't have thought to make a report with the Office of Aging if it weren't for the commenters. Here's hoping he gets the help he needs, and I get the peace and quiet I've been longing for. /relevant comments. Commenter. Having dealt with multiple agencies, such as the one you spilled your story to, it has now entered a black hole, likely never to be seen again. At least you've done your part. Ops response. I'm not expecting anything to come of it either. Even if they investigate it, the man is just cognizant enough that he'll probably still be able to rationalize his occupant's existence. Either way, it was the right thing to do. Commenter 2. That's not the way dementia works. One thing to be aware of is that the disease causes people to A. Forget things and B. Replace impulse, doing things on purpose, with habit, doing what one has always done. I don't know, but this may be why, for example, he wasn't stopping the front door route, habit, or removing the TV, forgetting. I could go on, but I'd assume this guy is almost certainly being taken advantage of, so keep bugging the police for patrols and Adult Protective Services for self-care issues. Take it from me, having trouble climbing 2 stairs is well into frail territory, if not 100% fall risk. Ops response. When he dumped the TV, he had one of the guys who lives with him help him. He towed the TV to the back of my yard on his lawn mower, then had the young guy put it there. I should have mentioned this, but even if he did forget, the young guy knew it was there too. He didn't do it alone. I more or less meant he seems to be in the early stages of it, but I see where you're coming from. I'm aware of how dementia works. I worked in an assisted living facility in my teens where half the patients had it. It's why I've emphasized that not only for my sake, but especially for his, I hope he gets the help he needs. I'm not expecting my report to get anywhere for him, though.